Hey, all right. Welcome to the BroDiallo show this morning. Um, I started off with the classic track, from The Coup called The Coup. And it's kind of hard to find this song because this song is off the in my no, I'm not going to say it's an opinion. It's an objective fact. The classic album Kill My Landlord by Coup, E-Rock, and Boots Riley and Pam the Funktress, the debut album of the Coup. Now, the Coup, E-Rock has since left the Coup. Pam the Funktress has since died, passed on. Rest in peace to Pam the Funktress. But, Boots Riley is still out here making music and doing other junk. I don't know why. He's doing his other mess with TVs and movies. He should just rap. Shut up and rap. Nah, let me not try to stifle my brother. You know how people get. People love you for one thing. They don't want to see you do nothing else. And I'm people. I'll admit that. Anyway, that was Boots Riley. Pam the Funktress on the cut. E-Rock, even though he wasn't on that song. That was The Coup, by The Coup. So like I said, that song's kind of hard to find if you're searching for it, because it's the name of the group and it's the name of the song. So you look up The Coup and all their other songs will come up. And every time I have to dig around to find The Coup. Meet you with 1,000 brothers in the street, getting drunk off liberation. Fuck the Hennessy, because you clowns have kept us down for far too long. Now you're going up in smoke like Cheech and Chong. And the song I Ain't the Nigga is the Constitution. Niggas die, but Africans make revolution. Ooh, that song. Anyway, since I guess, because I'm gonna have to tell y'all, and I know I got unpopular opinions, and I have to admit, I ain't like these people out here, this popular disposition of I don't give a fuck. I gives no fucks. And I see all these memes and clever ways people are able to articulate that they don't give a fuck. But I give fucks. I give them. I care. I care about the status of my people. I care about my position and standing within my community. I care how I'm perceived by my people. I care about the legacy I'm constructing, what I will leave behind, how my positions radiate and impact and influence. I give fucks. And I know that's not popular. I know that's an extremely because you're not supposed to give a fuck. Hashtag IDGAF. I think that's corny as hell. Now, I say, because I have observed that not giving a fuck is the coward's method of coping. I'll say it one more again. Not giving a fuck is the coward's method of coping. And I don't have these other escape mechanisms. I have not provided myself these other escape mechanisms that many other people have given themselves in order to live the I don't give no fuck, I gives no fucks. Count how many fucks I give. I don't take the position that only God can judge me. To me, that's an absurdist and obscene position. And it ain't just because God doesn't exist, but what does that suggest? It's just weird to me. People will put a fictional entity over the flesh and blood people they see every day. People got to communicate with God through fever dreams, through visions, through symbols, through effigies and burnt toast and water stains on the walls. People got to communicate and interact with God through mysterious ways that can't be recorded. They can't be validated, can't be tested, can't be duplicated, can't even be reciprocated. But you can communicate with another human being, flesh to flesh, skin to skin, and put more weight in these mysterious ways, fictional communications, than you put into the visual, auditory, sensory, flesh communications with other people. and taking messages from God that you reject from other people. That shit's weird to me. But that allows you to give no fucks. But I give a fuck. And I'm saying all that to say, when I take unpopular positions in the community, when I take unpopular positions, it pains me to do it. I swear, I don't like having to deflate tires on bandwagons. I want to jump on the back of the bandwagon with a banjo and a straw hat, no shirt, and tattered cutoff jeans, and a piece of straw in my mouth, and I want to do the jig dance with the rest of y'all. I swear I do. I love it. And the few opportunities that I have to jump on the bandwagon and high five and dance around and enjoy something, a phenomenon, to celebrate a phenomenon or to celebrate an accomplishment or achievement with my people, I relish it, because it's often rare. Because most of the time when Black folks are dancing in the streets, I'm up on the sidewalk. When Black people are doing a parade, I'm just standing there with my arms crossed tight, my lips pierced. I don't like it, but somebody got to do it. You think pimping ain't easy? You know what's even harder than pimping? Hating. And then what's really hard is to be acting out of love, but called a hater. But I've embraced the title of hater. I've been called it so much. I'm trying to deflate it, like y'all think y'all doing. Like when sisters, call each other bitch, or Black people call each other niggas, and you call me a hater. I don't like it. I don't think it's an appropriate term. I don't think it accurately describes my mission or my disposition. But I just embrace it, because what else can I do when people hit me? They call me a hater because I give some fucks, and I know that only God is about the only thing that can't judge you. Literally, God is the only thing that can't judge you. My wife and I were out yesterday, and we saw like this 8-year-old girl in braids, and she's standing on the bus stop sucking on a lollipop, and she's looking at us all judgmentally. My wife is like, that's a cute little girl. She reminds me of my sister. And then I look over at her, and I'm like, whoa, she got a stare. And she was judging us. Everybody judge me. Everybody judge me. And it's weird that so many human beings, take the position that the one thing that cannot cast judgment, that cannot be harmed or helped, that cannot harm you or help you, God, is the one thing we're going to submit to. And when other people, only God can judge you, and you live your life trying not to offend God, so that to avoid God's wrath, while you step on and dump on everybody else, flesh and bone, flesh around you. I say, get into your flesh. Anyway, I got me a new thermos. I was in Kansas City, and I saw this pine tree hand-painted thermos that was on sale. And I got it. So if you see, I'm not trying to flex on y'all. My swag is frugal. I'm a frugal dude. So I don't like to flex on y'all too often, but when I do flex, I'm a flex hard. So yes, my new tea thermos is making its debut on the BroDiallo show. Ceramic. It's even got a ceramic top. A lot of them ceramic thermoses nowadays got the plastic top, but not me. I don't get down like that. My ceramic thermoses have ceramic lids, because that's just how I do, baby. Anyway, what was I saying? Just had to debut my new thermos. I'm about to take a sip live on the air. Join in with me if you dare. That organic, cheap, 365 green tea. Boy. Okay, where was I? Oh, so I'm saying all that. I'm trying to set something up, believe it or not. I'm a hater because y'all say so, because I believe y'all can judge me, and I care about y'all opinion, and I don't like going against the grain, but I have to. Not doing it because I want to, but I'm doing it because I have to. Every time, that's King T. Shout out to King T. Man, y'all give love to everybody from the West Coast except the people from the West Coast. But shout out to King T. I'm not doing it because I want to, but I'm doing it because I have to. But now, I was going to say all that to say the only coup I like, the only coup I support is Boots Riley, Pam the Funktress, and E-Rock, Bay Area communist hip-hop group called The Coup. Up until that point, that's the only coup d'etat, the only coup that I can say that I support. But now I see the whole hood is supporting coups now. And I got in trouble Friday on the Earn Your Liberation show because I said, when I see coups, red flags go up. Can't trust it. No, I don't trust them. Everybody mad at me, but hey, I got to say it. I always say things I don't have to say. So anyway, I gives a fuck. And so I'm going to tell the truth. And even if it's an unpopular truth, even if I don't get to, I have to stand on the sidewalk while y'all on the bandwagon going up Main Street having a happy black parade, I'm just going to stand there, arms crossed and lips pierced until my hater sense stop tingling. I'm a hater man. And when my hater sense start, I'm like, there's some issues here. There's some red flags, and I think the black community should be the most skeptical, not pessimistic, but skeptical, analytical, critical, and if you are optimistic, that's good for you, but that our optimism should be earned. Don't just be default optimistic. You should earn optimism. Like, if you're going to be optimistic about something, at the very least, let that optimism be rooted into some cold, hard data, some facts, not just pure emotion and good feeling and desire, which aren't bad things. I'm not an anti-emotional dude. I just want them to stay in their lane. Intellect, emotion, we need it all. We're full and complete human beings, but everybody in terms of let me just say that. Let me just give my word to the community. The next book review, the next 3 book reviews are all lined up. I just got to shoot them and edit them. But the next book review will be The Community of Self. And so in Dr. Akbar's classic book that I reread twice, I thought I knew that book, and I was pleasantly and unpleasantly surprised after my reread. But anyway, we're going to talk about the community itself. So you understand the emotions, the egos, the intellect, they all have their place. And when you manage them properly, your internal community will be harmonious. And if your internal community is harmonious, you can better navigate this world and impact this world and make a positive contribution to the just aspirations of African people. Speaking about African people, they done got Jamie Foxx. So now we know. I was wondering why they cloned. I had posed a question. I said, what great calamity was about to befall the Illuminati that cloning Jamie Foxx has prevented? I don't know the exact how I worded it. Let me just scroll down. Maybe I can find it. And I asked this question and nobody even tried to answer it. Because I don't understand things. I didn't understand. I understood that some people truly believe that Jamie Foxx is either cloned or that Jamie Foxx was the target of the Illuminati, or whatever y'all was saying. And I asked these people are so enthusiastic about sharing their views, their speculation, their truth, the deep knowledge. They're so enthusiastic about sharing this shit, but they don't ever want to elaborate. They just want you to take it at face value. So I had asked the question, what great calamity was about to befall the Illuminati, reptilians, and Masonic elites that cloning Jamie Foxx has prevented? Now, as far as the elites, the oppressors, I must agree that I don't see any evidence that there is Illuminati, that they are reptilian, alien human hybrids, or that the Masonic symbols and Masonic hand symbols are really the evil cabals that they are. You know, I'm like Hannah Arendt. And if you don't know who Hannah Arendt is, you should look her up. She wrote this book called The Banality of Evil. She went and interviewed the Nazis, and she was hoping to find some, I guess you could say, from her point of view, some flaw or some quirk or some deep-seated anomaly within the minds of the Nazis. She wanted to go into a room and find a Lex Luthor. She wanted to go in the room and find the Joker. She wanted to go in the room and find some character, some characteristic, some type of abnormality within the mindset of the Nazis, to see that how they could do such a horrible thing. And when she sat across from some of the most wicked, evil white men she had ever interacted with, in her opinion, again, nobody asked me to classify the worst white people, because I have to tell you, I hate, I'm like anti-Kanye. I hate Nazis. I hate Nazi. I hate Nazi ideology. I hate Nazi agendas. And I hate Nazis in the flesh. Shout out to Antifa and the whole punch a Nazi. I'm down. I mean, there's a lot of things white folks do I don't want no parts of. I don't want no parts of skiing. I don't want no parts of base jumping. So white folks come and say, hey, BroDiallo, come over here with us. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell the white folks, no, you know, y'all ain't getting me. I ain't going to be the one colored guy in the horror movie. No. But one thing, I think that if a group of white people say, come on, BroDiallo, and I'm like, where y'all going, white folks? And they were like, we're going to punch Nazis. I might go with them because I hate Nazis. I'm like the opposite, because Kanye loves Hitler. I hate Hitler. I hate his guts. And I hate all the other Hitlers. There are a lot of Hitlers, black people. But that being said, if I had to create my list of worst white folks in the world, Nazis would probably, man, they'd have to wait. They'd have to stay out in the waiting room for a lot longer than you would expect. You know, because there are a lot of white people, white individuals and white systems and white ideologies that have a much bigger body count than Hitler. That's still catching bodies. But according to this woman, Hannah, she thought the Nazis were the worst thing in the world. And she would walk into that room and try to figure out what form of monster is this? And she sat down and she was like, these are just regular white folks, everyday white folks. Boring. There's nothing that distinguishes this white Nazi, this bloodthirsty, mass murdering Nazi, from my father, from my brother. This Nazi woman, nothing separates her from me. She sees the world as I do. She looked like me. She dressed like me. She trying to get like me. She was like, damn, these Nazis, she couldn't break them out the plastic. She left them in the plastic because there was nothing new about them. And she said, evil is not some supernatural force from on high. It grows from our culture. It grows from just the most basic, regular shit. There's another book called Hitler's Willing Executioners. It said one day a dude will be out trimming his hedges, and then all of a sudden the Nazis take power, and he's out there clipping the heads off and castrating Jews the same way he was clipping the hedges on his front yard. There were some Nazis that would take Jewish children home from the concentration camp and tie them up in the backyard. And after dinner, if the children finished their dinner and cleaned up after supper, they let their own children go out and torture and murder the Nazi children. right? And what she found is that these are every day round the way white folks. So when y'all try to act like there's some Illuminati, Bohemian Grove, Masonic ritual, supernatural, divine energy force, demonic force that is doing all these bad things in the world, I'm like, nope. It's just that one racist accountant at the multinational corporation. It's that one Uncle Tom city council member, that one self-hating Uncle Tom cop, that one racist white intern at the hospital, pre-med or med student. They're the ones doing the evil. They're the ones propping up the evil. Just taking orders. Hey, I'm just doing my job. So anyway, many of y'all have bought into, and that's another thing. That's another thing that we miss is, I know as an oppressed person, and as I interact with oppressed people, we don't want to believe that we are oppressed by simple bureaucrats. We'd like to believe that since we are oppressed, since we face so much injustice, that it must be something supernatural, something demonic. Something demonic. I'd like to believe that I'm being oppressed by Lex Luthor, some great evil that only a great superhero can fight, instead of just a bloated, idiotic trust fund baby like Trump, or an insecure, skittish Ron DeSantis. Punks. I know y'all like to believe that Bill Gates is some force of evil, but he's literally what he looks like. He's not pretending to be some tech nerd. He is genuinely a tech nerd. But because of the way other bureaucrats and legislators and officiators and the passiveness, I don't give a F masses operate, such a twerp can yield such an imbalance of power. And we just can't figure out how to bring down the elites because we believe they're super. When they're nothing more, like Dale Jones said, punks, chumps, and suckers. But I digress. Let's get back to Jamie Foxx, and then we're going to get to the topic. I swear. So Jamie Foxx is in trouble. And I had asked the question, why would the Illuminati, reptilian, Masonic elites clone Jamie Foxx? What was about to happen to them? Because I know evil. I don't put nothing past our oppressors. I put nothing past them. And you come and tell me the oppressors, to me, the oppressors are guilty until proven innocence. You come and tell me the oppressors did something, I'd be like, those bastard ass oppressors. Yeah, to hell with them. Let's bring them down. But at some point, we have to say, well, what is the rationale? Because if we're going to bring them down, you got to know thy enemy. Know thy enemy, know thyself. So I have to know my enemy. So what's his angle? What's his rationale? What's his agenda? What does he hope to accomplish? Does he intend to? What's the deal? And so when you tell me the evil oppressors are putting chemicals in the water to turn the frogs gay, I'm like, God damn them, turning frogs gay. And I'm willing to accept that. But after some moment, after we bang on them and flip over the tables, after we rip our shirts and yell, I hate them, then we're going to say, okay, you believe they're doing this bad thing. And if we want to stop them from doing a bad thing, we have to understand it. We have to comprehend it. And that's where I have to stop the raging. Because every time y'all come and tell me the oppressors are doing something, and I'm like, God damn them. I ain't about to sit there and be like, no, they aren't. They've been good to us. I'm willing to accept they doing whatever evil thing. Everybody, I hate them. And if you got animosity, I think you are not human or healthy if you don't have animosity for the elites. But when you tell me they doing something wrong, I'll accept it. But then the part two of what's the point of understanding what they've done wrong if we're not going to take countermeasures? And the only way to take appropriate countermeasures is to comprehend what they're doing and their motivations for doing it. And that's where I have to step back and I have to join with the rational people. Y'all tell me that the elites do something wrong, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll accept it at face value. But then I'm like, let's understand it. Let's critique it. Let's dissect it for the purposes of counteracting it. Y'all just stop at being mad. Y'all just stop at hating. Y'all really believe there's reptilian overlords, Masonic elites, Illuminati out here cloning black celebrities. And what's next? You just tell the people, let the people know this truth. For what? What's the point of even telling people? You're just going to add to their anxiety, their fear, their irrationality? Leave them alone. If you ain't going to be like, well, let's conceptualize. What can we do about this? So you tell me something weird. It's like, wait, they're not putting chemicals in the water to make the frogs gay. They don't care about the sexuality of frogs. They're deregulating environmental policies for the point of profit. They don't care about making frogs gay. They care about generating profits. So that they're allowing multinational corporation to emit toxic hormone mimicking chemicals without regulation for the purposes of profits, not gay frogs. So while y'all out there and talking about fighting against gay frogs, and you assume, well, if they're making frogs gay, they must want to make humans gay, and they want to make humans gay, then the gays are the enemy. And y'all bum rushing the gays. You attacking your little gay cousin behind his back, because if you got in his face, he beat your ass. But you attacking your gay cousins and stuff because you believe that they're putting chemicals in the water to make the frogs gay, when they're putting chemicals in the water that is generating short-term profits in order to sustain the unsustainable capitalism. This is not a sexuality problem. This is an economic and ecological problem. But when I start asking questions about chemicals in the water, y'all be like, you must be gay. You must want to advance the gay agenda. Blah, blah, blah. And instead of fighting against capital, so that's the only reason I say. So when you come and tell me Jamie Foxx has been cloned, it's just like the chemicals in the water. I'm like, to what end? Yeah, they clone Jamie Foxx, fine. Yeah, if they could, they would. So I believe you. But why? Even how? To what end? And like Dale Jones say, what does the shit mean to me? So anyway, nobody answered me. Everybody's showing that picture of pale, sickly, thin Jamie Foxx next to robust, chocolate, well-groomed Jamie Foxx. And they like, these ain't the same people. And I'm like, y'all gotta be kidding me, right? But now I guess I found out. They brought up because they wanted to use him turn him into the new face of anti-Semitism. I guess that's why. But that still doesn't explain what Calamity was about to be like. Oh, we're the elites and we're in trouble. Clone Jamie Foxx. That ought to fix everything. If anything, it made shit worse for them. But I mean, God, I guess y'all doing a lot of promotion for they clone Tyrone. I haven't seen that clone Tyrone yet. I have to sit and watch that because I'm hearing mixed messages. So I have to see for myself. But it's interesting that he's in trouble now. And now people going back to dig up Kanye West. How he got in trouble, and Ice Coon. And Ice Coon. Because I don't know if some of y'all more sophisticated than I am. Some of y'all more sophisticated. Y'all don't follow mess. What them want if I talk about mess? Y'all don't follow the mess. But Jamie Foxx said, I'm going to try to zoom through this because I've spent way too much time overindulging myself. But and I didn't even say the thing I was supposed to say, but I'll say it after this. So Jamie Foxx said these people killed Jesus. So imagine what they would do to you. And he said that he was talking about fake friends. And the thing is that's disturbing to me. What's really disturbing to me is that black people still out here talking this Jesus myth. I have to say, y'all don't understand this. To me, black people accepting alien religion is a community-wide, race-wide, culture-wide crisis. It's a crisis. You know, to just have a black person that can comfortably talk about killing Jesus, as if that's relevant to black people. But anyway, Jamie Foxx, and this is the thing. Dr. Bobby E. Wright said, black people, we've been in this country longer than anybody, but we understand it the least. That's real curious to me. Black people can fully participate and elevate and master and even govern white systems and dwell and integrate into white society and don't understand it for shit. We don't understand it, which is weird to me. How black people can be so integrated and participate in this system and don't really understand it. You know, because white folks, y'all need to stop putting y'all mess on us. We don't put our mess on y'all. We more likely to blame ourselves for y'all mess than to blame y'all for our mess. But there is this concept of Jew baiting and Christ killers. For the longest time within Europe, see, that's the thing we also have to understand is the myth of white unity. There's been so many black people, past and present, that have promoted the fallacy that white people have so much power and material wealth because they are unified and they stick together, and that black people are oppressed and have a deficiency of power and material resources because we don't stick together. Rizza Islam once tweeted that he never saw a white woman say there are no good white men, but he frequently hears black women say there are no good black men. Shit like that. And I tried to send Rizza a link to SCUM. SCUM is the acronym Society for Cutting Up Men, started by white women. You know, I tried to send him the whole quote where there's a whole branch of the feminist movement that says that testosterone is the most dangerous substance on the earth. And it's a good argument too. Even if you don't agree with it, it's got some merit. You know, we can disprove the women in our actions instead of just crying about them, calling shit out. I mean, we do commit like 90% of the homicides. I mean, goddamn. May leave some murder for the ladies. You could quit. But anyway, that's not funny because it's sad, really. But white folks are not unified. They don't get along. Their power is not derived from their unity and love for each other. So white folks have these long-standing conflicts, and sometimes they drag us into shit we ain't got shit to do with us. So Europeans, Western and Central and even Eastern Europeans, have this long history of what is called Jew baiting. And what Jew baiting is whenever you had a lord of a manor or monarch or some type of elite landed gentry, and they would mismanage their wealth and screw over the peasants. They would screw over in the feudal system. In the feudal system, they would screw over the peasants. The peasants would work and create all the wealth, and the lords and the landed gentry would take up all the resources and squander it on everything from unnecessary wars to very necessary orgies. And then the peasants will be like, we're starving. The knights are here raping us and doing all this horrible shit to us, and all we do is work, and this is terrible. And so the lords would come to come to the peasants, the Christian lords would come to the Christian peasants and say, it's the Jews. The Jews did everything. They're killing babies. The Jews are the problem. So the lords, the true elites, would do all this horrible shit and then tell the white masses that it's the Jews. And that's Jew baiting, goes all the way back to the Dark Ages and before that. Really, it even goes back to even though it was less formalized in Rome, but they just got to hate somebody, right? They just got to hate somebody. And then there was this myth that the Catholic Church put out. First, they said the Romans killed Christ because the Romans were the descendants of, where the Italians were the descendants of the Roman Empire. And it used to be that the Romans killed Christ. But the problem is the Romans were Christian. They became Christians and they left paganism. And so even though Christ was killed and executed by the proto-Italian Romans, then they said, well, Jews were the Christ killers. Even though they didn't kill Christ, they asked the government to kill Christ. So anyway, this concept of Christ killers, right, and anti-Semitism was deep-seated throughout European society. Black people didn't have nothing to do with none of that. In fact, just like Islam, Jews would come to North Africa and come to places where the black people govern for refuge and then turn around and stab us in the back. John Henry Clark said, Africa, the African continent, has always been a place people would come to seeking refuge. And then when Africa would help people who were in trouble. And then when Africa would be invaded, the very people we gave refuge to would join the invaders against their African host. That's been repeated so many times. And then this book came out from the Tsars Russia, called The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. And the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion was supposed to be a document like the COINTELPRO papers, but for Jewish takeover. This book was a forgery. It's one of the most absurdist books you would ever read. It's a very obvious frame up. It would be like if you walked in and found a document, and in the document it says, this book is written by me, BroDiallo Kenyatta. And I, BroDiallo Kenyatta, intend to take over the world. And I, BroDiallo Kenyatta, being the evil man that I am, intend to employ these insidious methods to take over the world. Now, I do intend to take over the world for my own purposes, for the purposes of Pan-African liberation and ecological restoration, but that's another discussion. All I'm saying is nobody writes like that. Let's say you're making a grocery list. You don't write, which is your agenda. You don't write, I, so-and-so, intend to buy food for myself for the very purposes of nourishing my body and feeding my extended family. I intend to have both healthy options and unhealthy snacks. I think I earned them. I do work out from time to time and believe I will have cheat days. So I will go to the neighborhood grocery store and purchase these items and this list. And in the future, I will teach my children how to prepare lists for groceries. Now, here are the groceries I will purchase with the money that I have earned from my job. And then you start writing. Nobody writes like that. But that's literally how the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion is written. We, the Jews, being the evil, insidious Jews that we are, Jewing up everything, will go about the world using our Jewish evil for the purposes of evil Jew shit. Nobody writes like that. Nobody. But if you find a text that's written like that, I guarantee you the person that they claim wrote it didn't write it. That's just not true. But that book, with a long history of calling the Jews Christ haters, Christ killers, and Jew baiting and anti-Semitism. And now here it is, black people. We get enslaved, colonized, Jim Crowed, and stuck in this system. And they bring all their shit and putting their baggage on us. I'm telling you, black people cannot be racist. Black people cannot be Islamophobic, and black people cannot be anti-Semitic. Even Farrakhan. Black people, we just can't. Because you need to have the hate, and you need to have the institutional power to impose that hatred. That's what anti-Semitism is. Institutional power. Hatred plus institutional power. And believe you me, if black people don't like you, you done something. It's two reasons that a black person don't like you. Another group of people. Either that group of people have wronged us, or the people who have wronged us have indoctrinated us into their way of. But black people, our problem is not that we hate, it's that we love too much. Black people, we xenophilic. But anyway, it's just funny to me that we got another prominent black person out here shucking and jiving and tap dancing for something that ain't got nothing to do with him. Ain't got nothing to do with him. And now black people all out here mad. And instead of getting angry, we should sit back and take notes. Sometimes learn. Sometimes you just learn. And because here's the fact, how many times is a black person going to be falsely accused of anti-Semitism and the whole hood ready to rally around and fight with him like them beautiful brothers and sisters in Alabama, going ready to fight with him, and they cut the community off at the knees and grovel. They turn their backs on the hood and go grovel at the feet of the very people they don't owe no apology to. Now, my conclusion in this they killed Christ thing with Jamie Foxx is not that the Jews are too sensitive or blah, blah, blah. My conclusion is black people need to abandon Christianity. But if you're going to be a part of Christianity, you at least have to really understand Christianity. We the most Christian people out here and don't know a goddamn thing about Christianity. And if you are speaking from Christian tropes, Christianity has a long history of persecution, of religious persecution. So you should understand the billions and millions and millions of bodies that are piled up in the name of Christ. So if you are a black Christian and you are talking about the persecution of Jesus, yes, anti-Semitism is a cornerstone of Christianity. So you messing around with shit you don't understand. You playing around with chemicals and explosives that you don't understand, and when it blow up in your face, I'm not sympathetic. One way to not be falsely accused of Jew baiting and calling Jews Christ killers, and you don't even know the history, it's just not be a Christian. I'm not saying I can't get accused of being anti-Semitic. I'm not going to say that I can't be accused of that. But if I am accused of it, it won't be because I said some Christian shit. So Jamie Foxx stuck his toe in a conflict that goes back for white people along. He was indoctrinated into Christianity by white people, and white people taught him slave Christianity. They don't teach him white Christianity. Because how do two different people pray to the same God and get opposite outcomes? We pray to God and he tells us to be nonviolent and peaceful. The white man prays to God and he tells them, go make you some nuclear bombs. So I understand the mix up here. Everybody's going to need to just understand what's going on. Christianity is it is a cornerstone of the Christian doctrine that Jewish people must either be slaughtered or mass converted. That is called a dispensation. In order for Christ to return, Christ the Redeemer, to fulfill his prophecy, the Jewish people must either be slaughtered or mass converted. So Christianity, inherent to Christianity, is the destruction. So yes, Christianity is by structure anti-Semitic. But then you are a black Christian, and and you say some black Christian bullshit, and then get mad when you get called anti-Semitic. Now I know you ain't anti-Semitics. You don't know a damn thing about Christians except, oh, here beneath the cross I bow. So if you're gonna be a black Christian, at least say, hey, I do slave Christianity. I don't do colonizer Christianity. I don't do imperialist Christianity. I don't do white Christianity. I don't do mainstream Christianity. I'm a slave Christian. So I don't know the history. I don't know the doctrine and ideology. I just know a few Bible verses that give me some emotional boost to carry out my day, to help me get through the day. Oh, Lord. But you messing with some shit you don't understand. Y'all talking, so it's a complex issue. Because if a white Christian, if an evangelical Christian, if a European Christian, if a real non-colonized, because listen, if you are a Christian or a Muslim, there's only two types of Christians and Muslims that matter to the rest of us. Because I know y'all want to talk about, Sufism, the mystic Islam. Y'all want to talk about what's the Shiite and Sunni, Orthodox, Wahhabi, and you want to talk about Protestant, Catholic, Anglican, and there's all these divisions within these two colonizers' religions. But I only need to know one or two things. There's only two types of Christians and two types of Muslims to me: colonizers and colonized. You're either a colonizer Christian or a colonized Christian. You're either a colonizer Muslim or a colonized Muslim. And if you are not of Western European descent, then count yourself amongst the colonized. Or, as I like to better say it, slave. How do you say slave in Arabic? Abed? Abed? Those are only two I count. And then we can get into all the other parts, But if you can't count yourself amongst the colonizers, then you are colonized. And don't come to me with your chest stuck out, praying to an alien god that enslaved your people and colonized your land. I listen. But if you're going to do it, do it. But I want to give black people, before I move on, I want to give black people a list of victimized whites, because there's a lot of victimized white people who come to us for solidarity and then want to condemn us for oppressing them, even though we ain't got shit to do with their oppression, and we don't owe them solidarity, because every single goddamn time we showed them solidarity, the first opportunity to stab us in the back and join with the establishment, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant Aryans, they stab us in the back and turn white on us. But it's not just Jewish people. It's not just the Jews. Jews are the most vocal because they got a lot at stake. They got a lot of irons in the fire right now with the Zionism and, and anti-Semitism and the reemergence of Nazis. And at the same time, many elite Jews fund far right-wing movements in Israel and its demographic problems. So they got a lot of irons in the fire, but they're not the only ones. The Irish pulled the same shit on us. The Irish came here and claimed they were slaves. The Irish came here and was like, well, we're colonized too. Oh, beloved Ireland. It's been colonized for 800 years by the British, and they came to black folks. We came here indentured servitude and slavery, and Irish were slave too. And lying on us. We've been discriminated against, and there were signs up in stores, no Negroes and no Catholics. And the Irish Catholics were like, we're discriminated and we're hated. And they would even have rhetoric about how they would give the jobs that were too dangerous for a slave, they give them to an Irishman. Because a slave you could sell for $1,200, but an Irishman is not worth a bit nickel. And many of black people were like, man, these Irish people, they understand what we going through. And what did they do? Copper, paddy wagon. As soon as the same white people that persecuted and discriminated against the Irish, as soon as they were like, okay, as soon as the white Protestants of America said, come on, come get in the white box. They became racist with a vengeance. Soon as the white Protestant shopkeeper walked out and grabbed a sign and scraped no Catholics or no Irish off and left no colored or no Negroes, the Irish ran inside and locked the door and was looking out the window with the same white person, the same white Protestant, the same Northern European that hated him, the same British German that hated him. Now that they all white. And they ain't looked back since. You know, instead of fighting with the colored folks, why don't you police them for us? And the Irish community became racist with a vengeance after giving us their sob story of persecution in the old land, in the fatherland. Same thing with the Italians. They used to call the Italians swarthy. They didn't like Mediterranean Europeans because they were a little too olive colored. They call them olive. They say they're tinged. They're contaminated. And the Italians was like, listen, we're going to earn our white card. We're going to go hard in the paint. Fascism. We're going to go hard in the paint to show the other whites that we're true whites. You ain't got to be Swedish. You ain't got to be blue blood. You ain't got to be blonde hair and blue eyed to be white. You can have olive colored skin, dark eyes, and brown and black hair and still be white. Let me show you. Let me show you. But when they were on the outs, when they were here, who do you think occupied the slums? They didn't build the slums and the tenements for black people. And the moment they got there, the Italians, and then just poor whites in general, there's literally a book called White Trash. The scallywags. I tell y'all all the time, we all know the racial slurs white people have for blacks. But do you know for every racial slurs that white people have for blacks, they have a dozen other for each other? Do you know about the racial slurs white people have for other whites? The Roma gypsies? I mean, the white slurs are so well ingrained into the culture, you don't even recognize you using a slur. You call somebody a shyster, say, oh, you gypped me. Those are white racial slurs that nobody even recognizes because it's so ingrained. So poor whites, same thing. Oh, I want to fight hand in hand. Had these beautiful labor songs. We all workers, one and all, one for all. In the moment, the white folks is like, hey, we got this militant, anarcho-communist, syndicalist labor movement, and they're letting the blacks and the whites are fighting together. How about we give some welfare to the whites and tell them that your job isn't miserable and hard and underpaying because of the capitalists. Your job is hard, miserable, and underpaying because of the colored workers are coming and work for half of what you were willing to work for. And they beat the shit out of black people, the white laborers, the white poor, the white masses, the white unions, the white, oh, don't get me started on the white gays. They didn't just stab the black gays in the back. They stabbed the whole black community when there was no place. The black community used to be a refuge for queer whites, non-conforming whites. They would come even during Prohibition, during official segregation. Whites that didn't fit into mainstream white society, the bohemian, hippie, non-conformist. Women that wanted to wear pants and men that wanted to wear rouge would come to the black community to hide away for refuge. And the moment gay whites got mainstream, what do we get? We got log cabin Republicans, right-wing, ultra-conservative, capitalist white gay organizations. White women, ooh, don't get me started on white, same thing. The intimately oppressed, white woman, the feminist, the what do you call them? What do they call those women who wanted to vote? I can't, the name escapes me. The suffragettes, forgive me. White women. I mean, every group of victimized whites have come to the black people for sympathy and then turn around and condemn and demonize us at the same time. It ain't just Jewish white folks. And that's why I have to say, like Dr. John Henry Clark, black people don't owe nobody nothing but an ass whooping. Oh, no, that's not the quote. I didn't want to say black people don't owe nobody nothing but an ass whooping. That's the wrong quote. I wanted to say by Dr. John Henry Clark, there is no such thing as permanent allies, only permanent interest. So yeah, but I tell you what, also, I'm not going to rally around Jamie Foxx because Jamie Foxx ain't gonna do nothing but turn his back on the blacks and grovel before the establishment. He's already apologized. You're gonna lose your starvation wage job fighting for Jamie to maintain his mansions and his 7-figure income. I would think the fuck not, you trick ass. Nope. You're on your own, Jamie. Rich black people are on their own. And let me tell you something. Stop supporting rich black people even when they go through something. Here's my rule of thumb. If we can't be up with you, we not going to be down with you. Y'all need to stop listening to is that Brandy song? Well, who's saying I want to be down? Y'all some suckers. Yeah, it's Brandy. Y'all need to stop acting like Brandy. Yeah, I want to be down with you. Don't be down with. If we can't be up with you, we ain't gonna be down with you. What does that mean? If you are a black person of immense talent, of immense wealth, of immense status and stature, if you don't have a solid, documented public track record of solidarity with the black masses and redistributing your wealth with and among the black masses and supporting black liberatory politics, black liberatory organizations, black liberatory ideology, if you don't have that record, then and while you going up and you enjoying all the fruits of your personal labor, thinking you did shit on your own when you ain't done a goddamn, even Obama said you didn't build that. If we can't be up with you when you get in trouble, when you run afoul, even if you face injustice, even if white folks, when you get your ass, listen, I don't like to use the N-word, but sometimes I have to use the N-word for accuracy. I don't use the N-word for camaraderie. I don't use it for disrespect. I just use it for accuracy. So when you get what Paul Mooney called your nigga wake-up call, you want to become black as hell. And we, the black masses, have to stop allowing the black elites to do that because we give the black elites no incentive to stand with us. We give the black elites no incentive to support us because we love them irregardless. We have to make, it's not counterculture, it's racial and class solidarity. It's not cancel culture. It's not a culture, it's a strategy, it's a tactic, it's self-respect, it's racial esteem. So if we can't be up with you, we're not going to be down with you. And you don't have to worry about it because there are black people out here. If you want to champion any black person, there's a lot of black people without status and means who are out here suffering. So if you want to help a victimized black person and celebrities are at the top of your help a victimized black person list, you are a goddamn fool. You are a class traitor to your own class. You think the black elites are losing sleep about what the black masses are going through? No. And nor should we lose sleep about what any of them go through. Stop doing that. Michael Jackson didn't have no black people around him. Michael Jackson, like Del Jones said, he wanted to stand under the armpit of Elizabeth Taylor and didn't deal with no black people around anyway. But as soon as he got trouble in his record negotiation, he's standing on the stage with Al Sharpton with Fruit of Islam Security. What kind of fool is y'all? And we love them anyway. We give our most talented people no incentive to stand in solidarity with us because we love them regardless of whether they betray us or support us. Now, if you find a celebrity, if you find a talented, prominent, skilled, wealthy black person that is down with us, then go broke, go ham. Put posters on your wall, get them tattooed on your neck, whatever y'all do to celebrate black excellence. But black excellence must only be defined in terms of supporting and having solidarity with the black masses. You can't be black excellent. I don't care if you build white folks a rocket ship. I don't care if you get elected to the top of white folks' governments and properly and efficiently govern white folks' systems. I don't care if you got a wicked jump shot. I don't care. If your excellence is not embedded and encased in Black liberation, then it can't be defined as excellence. You can call it Black talent. Hell, I'll give you another word. Call it Black exceptional. Call it anointed Negroes. Call it anything except excellence, because it ain't Black excellence. Call it whack excellence. So yeah, let's have Black excellence. You must be revolutionary as well as talented in other ways. And what did I say? What I call it? Anointed Negroes. You're very talented, but all your talent goes for your own personal enrichment and the profits of the capitalist system. Then you are an anointed Negro. You're not a Black excellent. And I know I've been catching every now and then it flares up like shingles or herpes. People mad at me for disrespecting the religious beliefs of Muslims and Christians. Let me tell you something, and this is where I stand. I show as much respect to any religious system. I give equal amount of respect to any religious system that it has given to African people and African spiritual systems. That's why I don't get on here and talk about the Jains and Jainism. You see me out here cussing and going off on Jainism? No, it's a religion. I do believe it's delusional, but it ain't done nothing to Black folks. They don't mess with us. You see what I mean? I don't even get on here and talk about Wicca. Y'all hear me talk about it's some weird. You know, the Wicca Bible and all that stuff. Y'all don't hear me going in on Wicca, even though I think it's absurd. If you hear me talking bad about a religion, because it's done bad to us. I don't make up shit. Y'all do that. Unlike the religious people, Christians, Muslims, and Jewish people, I don't make shit up. So if I'm talking bad about your religion has done bad. And y'all want me to stop calling it out, and y'all don't seem to put as much effort in me calling out the evils as stopping and confronting the evils. Now, I understand and I make the distinction. I oppose Islamophobia. I'm not Islamophobic. I oppose religious persecution. I don't intend to persecute anyone for their religious beliefs and values. I stand in solidarity with the struggle of the Palestinian people. I oppose the so-called war on terror. I will call any day, anywhere, any opportunity, Bill Clinton, George Bush, and his stank-ass dead daddy, Barack Obama, and even, what's his name? Trump. And I will call them international war criminals for the atrocities they committed against the Muslim world, the Middle East, the North Africa, which isn't the Muslim world, it's colonized world, Africa. I will call them for the war crimes and atrocities. I support the freedom of both religious practice and religious expression. But at the exact same time, I will forever acknowledge and call out imperialism and racism within Islamic organizations and within the hearts of Islamic individuals. I do both. Same thing with Christianity. I don't support the persecutions of Christians. If you want to bump your head on the floor in the mosque or do the Holy Ghost dance in the tabernacle, that's your business. But I will forever oppose anyone trying to impose and extrapolate and metastasize their religious delusions into functional society. That's what people don't understand. There's people out here, Allah and Assalamu alaikum and all Muslim AF, but don't stand in solidarity with the suffering masses. They want to just identify with the elites from all their religions. I don't support any forms of oppression. I don't support oppressing people because of their religious faith or delusions, and I don't support allowing religions to oppress people. And if you can't make that distinction, and what's really funny to me is all the stuff I talk about Muslims, it's always the kafir, the Ebeds, the black Muslims that come at me. When I articulate my position to Persians and Arabs, to Palestinians, they understand that position. They understand, well, shit. If the Muslim, if my people had the same history with Islam as African people, I would take that same position. It's always the black, it's always the ones who are least secure in the religion that fight for their spot. But I digress. Same thing with Judaism. I oppose anti-Semitism. I call it out. I denounce it. I mock it. I expose when I see anti-Semitism. I don't think it serves black people to be anti-Semitic. And I'm really disturbed about how many black people are mimicking white anti-Semitism. Because that's all you can do is mimic it, act it out, because you can't really carry it out. So I call it out. I oppose anti-Semitism and I oppose Zionism. And I acknowledge that at the root of a lot of Western racism is the Hamitic curse that comes out of Judaism and the Kabbalah. We're going to deal with it. Let's deal with it. What you going to do with it? But I guess. Damn, Jamie Foxx taking up the whole day. This is the BroDiallo Show, Q4 Radio, Q4.org. Like, share, and subscribe. Please make a positive contribution to the just aspirations of the BroDiallo Show. You become a supporter, like, share, subscribe. Do all that algorithmic stuff to help get a boy out there, man. You know, let me cause I'm telling you, y'all follow me and give me some support and fame. I'm not going to have y'all rioting at Times Square. And it's funny, they'll literally lock up a Twitch gamer for causing a riot in the shopping district, but people out here defending a former president who caused a riot in the Capitol, a political riot. A consumer riot is more of a threat to this system than a political riot. So since they got Kai and arrested Kai, Trump should be in that same cell with Kai. I'm going to tell you, like the redneck white racist. Yes, if you support Trump, you are a racist or an Uncle Tom. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I will say, if Kai, it's really sad that black folks, we can generate. No, let me not say that. I ain't going to say. All I'm saying is he didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing. If Trump didn't do nothing, then Kai didn't do nothing. I mean, shoot. If one person can incite riots, then we all should have that right to incite riots. But anyway, let's get to the topic, because time is going. Where my support? Where my love? Where my people's at? Where my people's is at? I'm getting some love. Thank you, OP. Solidarity and black power to you too as well. Thank you for that show of support to sustain the BroDiallo Show. Now, what's the topic? What we here for? Black August and the distortion of black militancy. Ain't much I can say about it. It's all said in the title. It's cold as hell, and they just cranking up the air. Do y'all want me to leave? They trying to freeze me out of here. And I know y'all think I look crazy because y'all like, it's where I'm at, it's 110 degrees and BroDiallo sitting there in a hoodie. So I'm either an emo teenager parading as an old man, or I'm crazy. Because there's only two types of people that wear hoodies in 90 degrees. But in this building, it's like 60 degrees. But I guess all these computers and terminals and blinking lights, I don't even know what all this shit is. Maybe every now and then I should touch something, some instruments, to make y'all think I'm really over here doing. I'm going to start touching this stuff and interacting with this stuff, pretending. But they cooling all this mess down. I don't know what it's for. I know some of the stuff. I just know what I need to know. That's the thing. I just know just do what I got to do to get my job done, and I move on. When black people would do that, just doing what we need to do to get by, they demonized black people. But when white people started doing that, they called it quiet quitting and made it like it's some type of noble resistance. But anyway, y'all keep letting these people play these games with us. And what did Bobby Wright said? If they're gonna play games with us, we should play games with them. We don't know the game. We the true believers. Out Pope the Pope, we out Muhammad. Anyway, Black August, let me just say what I got to say about this, because I'm sick of these empty militants. I'm sick of, All my life, I've wanted to fight. Militancy is very attractive to me. It's very attractive. It was always attractive to me. The imagery, the stylings, the concept of it, was very attractive to me. But as I get older in the movement, I become more radical. I become more anxious. But I thought I was becoming less militant, but I didn't leave militancy. Militancy left me. Now I sound like one of them dudes, like I'm about to become a right winger. The left has lost its mind. The left wing, and now I'm the Democratic Party and the left. Anybody talking about the Democrats or left is already a liar or an idiot. Anybody that's like, oh, the left-leaning, the left-wing Democrats, the Democrats are not leftists. They're not leftists in agenda or ideology, but I digress. Let me stay on topic. Militancy. What is militancy? Because this is Black August. And the thing about that stands out about Black August, it's supposed to be a month that commemorates Black power, Black militancy, Black consciousness, willing to go beyond nonviolent advocacy. When Black people say we no longer going to march passively and sing hymns and try to appeal to the moral sensibilities of our oppressors. If you put your hands on me, I'm going to put them back. Malcolm X, Kwame Ture, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, Assata Shakur, Afeni Shakur, Angela Davis, George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson. These are Black people who were militant, who spoke, dressed, and acted differently than our leaders of the past. Prior to these iconic individuals and the many unnamed, I can't say, Pete O'Neill, many of them are still with us. Bunchy Carter, Sundiata Acoli, Mutulu Shakur. It's so many to name. We have a month where we recognize, celebrate, and embrace Black militant resistance to imperialism, to racism, to discrimination, to capitalism, to corporatism, to fascism, right? And so in this time that we celebrate militancy, I also say that the Black community now, that we talk all this shit, we not our ancestors, you can get these hands. The more militant we become, and if you're on the radio, I'm throwing up quotations hard as hell. The more quote unquote militant we become, the less militant we actually are, because we're losing the very understanding of what militancy is and what it isn't. Militancy, in order to be a militant, it is not militant to simply have a gun. It is not militant simply to have the will or capacity to do violence. It is not militant to have a house full of a prepper, having a bunch of MREs and camouflage and booby traps around your house. You are not militant. Militancy is not violence exclusively. Militancy, by definition, must be political and ideological. And before you can define someone as militant, you don't look at their capacity or will to do violence. You don't look at the weapons they flaunt. You first must look at their ideology and politics. Militancy literally requires you to subvert, to resist, and oppose the status quo. You must subvert, resist, oppose the status quo. With violence or any other means at your disposal, then and only then are you a militant. We have a lot of Black people who have not only don't seek to oppose or subvert or resist the status quo, but they embrace the status quo. But they believe they are militant. That is a distortion of militancy. You are not militant if you don't have an ideological foundation or not or, and a political goal. If your guns is like, I wish somebody would step to me, I wish somebody would try to touch my car, I wish somebody would try to snatch my chain, I wish somebody would try to hurt my family, that might be noble, that might be acceptable, it might be legal, but you are not a militant. Shooting a crackhead kicking in your door, trying to steal your wares is not militant. Shooting someone that is harming your family is noble. I respect that. That young man that shot that dude that was putting hands on his mama, I have nothing but respect and support for him. And I hope he gets the psychological support that he needs to deal with that trauma. But he is not a militant, because shooting a black man, if shooting black people equated to militancy, we would be a militant people, but we are not. That act, even though it is justified and even necessary at times, is not militancy. I'm sorry. Black militancy is exclusively ascending violence. If you are not engaged in ascending violence, you are not militant. What is ascending violence? That is when people lower on the hierarchy. People who are lower on the hierarchy attack people above them on the hierarchy. When your violence goes against the people who have greater power, greater status, greater resources than you. When you attack the oppressor, when you attack institutions of the oppressor, when you attack multinational corporations, that is militancy. That is called ascending violence. When people who are lower on the status quo attack people above the status quo. That is ascendant violence. That is only militancy you can manifest. If you are not doing that, you are not a militant. If you simply have guns and you believe guns are power, I got my guns, better not nobody step to me. If you believe guns are freedom, like these white homosexuals, like these white ring Second Amendment gun nuts, if you believe that guns equal power, you are not a militant. You're just violent. You're just violent. If you engage in descending violence, meaning if you commit violence against people who are lower than you in the status quo, in the hierarchy, if you are a middle class black man that worked hard, went to school, sacrificed, and you invested properly, and you bought into crypto and NFTs, and you are a wealthy, secure black man, and you're not going to let nobody take nothing from you. And so you strapped up, and some young kid sees your fancy car that he saw in the rap video, and he really wants that car, and he wants to try to carjack you, and you pull out your gun and shoot him. You have not engaged in a militant act. Even if it's lawful, even if it's justified, it's not militant. That is called descending violence. You committed violence against a person lower than you on the status quo, and that doesn't threaten the status quo. That does not create subversion, resistance, or opposition to capitalism and white hegemony. So descending violence is not militancy. It can be legal or illegal. It can be justified or unjustified, but it can't be considered militant. You don't get to stand up next to Malcolm X with your gun. You don't get to stand up and claim George Jackson or wave the red, black, and green because you shot some petty black drug addict or criminal. I'm sorry. I don't make these rules. Lateral violence is also not militant. What is lateral violence? Lateral violence is when gangs fight each other. So you got one gang-banging predatory black person against another gang-banging predatory black person, and they have a shootout. And there was just a shooting where somebody had their house shot up and they shot back, and they was all gangster shit. And so when gangsters kill each other, people are like, oh, shoot, they shouldn't have been out there in the street, shouldn't have been in the gang, shouldn't have been dealing drugs. You might be right. You could be wrong. But the bottom line is that is lateral violence. Lateral violence is when you fight against someone that is on the same level of the hierarchy in order to maintain or elevate your status in the hierarchy. When you fight someone that is within the same level of the hierarchy for the purpose of maintaining or elevating yourself within the hierarchy. That is not militant violence. The only way to be militant violence is if you fight someone that is on the same level of the hierarchy in order to reduce them or eliminate the hierarchy. That's the thing with those coup d'etats. A lot of times we see white folks fighting other white folks and we be like, yeah, one of those white folks is fighting for us. But that's lateral violence. They're not fighting on our behalf. We have to evaluate the coup d'etats when the military, which is a branch of the government, overthrows the legislature or the executive, which is a branch of the government. That's lateral violence. Now, will that lateral violence be defined as militancy? The only way it can be defined as militancy is if they begin, the people that are in that higher level of the hierarchy begin to dismantle the hierarchy overall. If they don't start to deconstruct the hierarchy, they just maintain, they replace someone in the hierarchy. Replacing power in the hierarchy is not the same as destroying the unjust hierarchy. So lateral violence, gangster violence, coup d'etats are not militant. I know because the word militant is in there and it sounds that way. And you be like, well, military and militant's not the same thing. You can be in the military and not be militant because you are there as fodder. You don't have an ideological or political goal. You just taking orders and don't even understand what the blood clot you're doing. Don't know why you're doing it. Literally got black men in U.S. military on African soil talking about they're there to defend democracy. That's not a militant dude. That's a violent dude. I have some other thing. Y'all not going to like this. Being anti without articulating your pros does not make you militant. There are a lot of appearing pseudo-militants, or what I call empty militancy. Militancy that doesn't threaten the status quo is empty militancy. Because I know it's hard to say, well, this person isn't militant. You got black men walking down the street in military fatigues and red, black, and green and calling Huey P. Newton Gun Club and Black Guns Matter. And these black dudes look militant as fuck, and they got all the rhetoric and stylings of militancy. So when I say they aren't militant, I know it's hard for people to grasp. So I started calling them empty militancy. It's not militancy at all, but since they look militant, they sound militant, they look and smell like Panthers, but they ain't got the same objectives, goals, and ideology as the Panthers. Right? So when you are anti, you will meet a lot of black people that's like, I don't like with that. I don't like Democrats. I don't like gays. I don't like this. I don't like that. Whenever somebody tells you they're against something and they don't articulate what they are for, being anti-democratic party is not an ideology. So when someone is so keen on telling you what they're against, I'm against these women twerking. When someone tells you what they're against, but they never articulate specifically what they are for, they are reactionary. They are not militant. Also, this is another thing that's going to include a lot of y'all who think, he ain't called me out yet. He ain't put his finger on me. He ain't got to me yet, and I'm about to get to most of y'all. Supporting tradition will more likely than not, being a traditionalist or the tradition fallacy will exempt you from being militant. If you're out here saying, traditional family roles, so traditional gender roles, traditional values, that is. And there are a lot of black men like those black Hebrew Israelites. Defend our women. We need to build the black family. Most of those militants are just reactionary and are just violence. What they are doing is trying to maintain, while overthrowing the larger system of oppression, they want to maintain internal systems and hierarchies. You can't fight societal hierarchies unless you are willing to challenge internal hierarchies. And I know that's mad uncomfortable, especially since black men, you want to upend patriarchy and we never even got to play. What they say, most Def said, when we start keeping pace, they change up the tempo. As soon as I'm able to bang on my chest and assert my manhood, all of a sudden you're saying manhood is wrong. Nobody's saying that, but I understand how it can be perceived that way. For centuries in this country, black men were not allowed to be men. And as soon the moment we are under the illusion that we finally get to be men, they want to start talking all this stuff about patriarchy and toxic masculinity. Like they closing just as we getting up to the gate, they want to lock the door to manhood. But that's a trick. It's a game, it's a hustle. And I've done too many talks on black masculinity, black manhood, and the various traps and delusions associated with that. So I won't go deep into that. I just want to let you know. Another way you cannot be militant is there's no such thing as theocratic militant. Now, there are militant theocrats, meaning that you can have a religious system, a religious belief and practices. You can have a spirituality. You can. You can have ancestral or Orisha shrines erected in your home, and every day you give offering to the Orisha and ancestors to inspire you, to sustain you, to cover you. You can do those rituals. You can even bump your head on the floor at the mosque, or you can even do the chicken dance at the tabernacle when the Holy Ghost take your party, and you can still be militant. I will grant you that, because I've seen evidence. The only reason I wish it wasn't true, but it's true, and I will grant you that because I've seen evidence of militant theocrats, people who have a religious system or religious beliefs, but still engage in militancy. And what is militancy? What is militancy? Political, ideological violence for the purpose of subversion, resistance, and opposition. Militant opposition, resistance, subversion. But you can't have theocratic militancy. What does that mean? If you are a militant who happens to be theocratic, that's one thing. But your militancy cannot be born of your theology. Meaning that you can't do holy war. Holy war is a reinforcement of an unjust hierarchy. Religious conflict is a reinforcement of unjust hierarchy. And to be a black militant, you have to destroy unjust hierarchies, not just the ones that affect you directly and presently. Any unjust hierarchies. Ain't no such thing as halfway militant. So even though you have the Nation of Islam, the Fruit of Islam, as I mentioned before, the Black Hebrew Israelites, you do have these religious organizations who claim they are willing and capable of doing violence on behalf of the defense of black women. But when you look at the core of it, when you say, okay, the Black Hebrew Israelites march down the streets and say, defend our women, defend our children. It's like, that's great. Yeah, we should defend our women and children. But can we get into this a little more? What do you mean? What is your position? What is your ideology? Well, women and children are our property. So when they're chanting, defend our women, defend our children, it's no difference between them saying, defend my car, defend my home, defend my possessions that I take ownership of. And in their ideology and doctrine, women are subordinate and children are property. And it is acceptable to use violence against your property and your subordinate if they do not adhere to your power and your authority. That's the type of defense you want. You would stop the cop from beating my ass only to drag me home and beat my ass? I ain't willing to do that trade-off. That's not militancy. That's still maintenance of a hierarchy. The same thing with the Nation of Islam, who see women as inferior, as subordinate. MGT, Muslim girl training. You got 45-year-old woman talking about I'm in MGT, Muslim girl. Women do not have the power, the authority, and status within these religious cults that men do. That's an unjust hierarchy. I already said that just joining the military, being a Marine, it can make you violent. It can make you fodder for the empire, but it does not. Militant does not make you. In fact, you're the opposite of militant. You're status quo. And finally, one thing that I see a lot of people have is justified hatred without radical analysis and revolutionary resolve and solutions. Simply hating or hate is not enough to classify yourself as a militant. I think every black person should be militant. A militant black person is a black person ready, willing to use any means at their disposal to challenge and confront the status quo, to subvert the status quo, to undermine it, to resist it, to oppose and eventually dismantle it. I think every Black person should be militant. And the system does fear militant Black people. It does understand that militant Black people can be a threat to the system. And they also understood that they could not eliminate or purge militancy from the Black community because many of our ancestors made great sacrifices, who were gunned down by violent cults in front of their wife and daughters in order to give us militancy, who lived in exile, who still live in exile in order to promote militancy in our community. I embrace militancy. I am a militant. So instead of, because they understood they couldn't destroy it, they decided to warp it, to ill-inform our people, to promote con men and demagogues. So you got a lot of Black men out here who, like I said, masculine, powerful, armed, ready. Ain't with all that talking. I'm ready for action. And if these individuals, these same Black men, do come to power, you'd be hard pressed to recognize the difference between their power structures and the power structures they claim to want to free us from. So anyway, this is BroDiallo Show. I told you all that. Like, share, subscribe. I want to give a shout out to everyone supporting. Now I'm going to open up for questions, comments, criticisms. Like I said, I do have several ways for people to chime in. I got the phones, I got the internet and the comment section. I got several ways for people to engage and chime in. And so I'm going to share the link. And if you do get on the link, I will bring you on live. You got to have faith. You got to just give me time. I can't just bring you on, sometimes someone else is on. So if you do chime in or you do make a comment, sometimes the comments get lost. It's a messy situation. I'm a one-man show. I'm all alone. I'm on my own. Like Patti LaBelle and that white dude. I'm on my own. So I'm doing the best that I can. I see that people, I really appreciate my audience engagement. So I do like to reserve time to engage with my listeners. So I'm going to open up for questions, comments, and criticisms. But before I do that, there are some starred comments. I want to thank my contributors. And so I want to first acknowledge and engage with my contributors. Sister Howard wants to know, so how do we fight ascending violence politically? We don't want to fight ascending violence. We want to engage in ascending violence. So I'm going to interpret the first part of your question as asking me, how do we engage in ascending violence politically? The way we engage in ascending violence politically is several ways. First of all, as an oppressed person, just about everything we do is political. Whom you marry and how you engage your marriage, your intimate relationship, where you choose to live, how you choose to feed yourself and sustain yourself. Everything we do is political. But I'm going to assume that you are asking about, now I have to make a lot of assumptions because this is a pretty wide question. So I'm just going to assume that you're talking about the mainstream political system and how do we, because we don't want to fight ascending violence. We want to engage in ascending violence. We want to enact ascending violence, meaning we want to subvert, harm reduction or harm inducement against. We want to be in opposition and resistance to policy. The first thing we have to do to engage in ascending political violence is to have accurate and sober political analysis. We have to understand both policy construction, policy implementation, and policy enforcement. and we can counteract policies. We also have to understand that politics operates on a local, regional, national level. We give way too much attention to national politics. So we can, in one way, we can capture or a party, meaning that you can, a lot of these local political groups are run by 4 or 5 elderly people. Your local parties, your local party association, your local party affiliation. You can have candidates run for positions within the community, within the citywide, regional governance, school board. I think one organization that has really done that just masterfully is the National Black United Front. They were really good at getting National Black United Front members on the school board, on the city council, and in local positions of governance, getting them on the administration of the mayor. And there was all this Black agenda, all these Black policies that you didn't vote for. People didn't even know who they were voting for, but people were they really inundated, and they didn't control the politics of the cities, but the policies and politics being implemented on behalf of or against the Black community. The National Black United Front had a hand in it, either stopping or advancing and articulating the interest. And there wasn't one local politician that didn't show up to the local MBUF meeting to make their appeal for support or to explain what they did to lose our support. So you engage in ascending violence as you organize. And that's another thing you don't do is see the politics is as a tool. When we engage in politics, we have to be code, distance, and calculating. Politics, again, is about the gaining and proper distribution of resources. It is not about savior. Understanding that through the political system, liberation and revolution ain't on the ballot and never will be. But resources are on the ballot. Harm reduction in the interest of our people, some particular identified interest, whether that is reducing lead and programs for lead abatement. And I know people, lead abatement, that's not revolution, but hey, it is a necessary thing to demonstrate to our people the love and concern that we have the people, so that we can show our people that we're worthy not only to enact revolution, but they should join us. Lead abatement, affordable insulin, that's the shit that's on the ballot. And when we can fight against those other entrenched powers in the political system. But anyway, that's a long-winded answer. But we engage in ascending violence by comprehending the political system, comprehending our strength and vulnerabilities in relationship to the political system, and then organizing our on a community level to shore up our weaknesses and deficits and to advance our interests in the political arena. Many people go into politics wanting to make the changes to power and structures in the government. I don't know about that. Not many, but some. Okay, you don't know about that either. Right on, Tina. Not many, but some. Okay, now that's better. I'll change it here. Some people go into politics wanting to make the changes to power structures in the government. But isn't that trying to use the very system that is broken to change things? Yes. And we have to go off of evidence. You can use a broken system to change things. You can have some good policies coming out of a bad government, but you can't have liberation. So we get that. Whatever it is, like what did Wise Intelligence say? I ain't turning down nothing but my collar. So if you can go get a grant, some scholarships and some shit, as long as you understand and we understand that that is not liberation, that is not revolution. But you can ask yourself, do I want to fight for liberation of my people while my grandmother has affordable insulin? Or do I want to fight for liberation of my people while my grandmother doesn't? And if you can take 2 minutes out of your day to go and advocate for affordable insulin and then take another 10 hours out of your day to go fight for revolution, why wouldn't you do that? So anyway, I hope I answered your question. I might have created, a lot of times I feel like I'm creating more questions than I'm answering, but that's my position. And I have several video. If you look at the BroDiallo archives, you'll see that I have several videos talking specifically about Black people in politics. But if you want to join in, questions, comments, criticisms, and engage directly. I just shared the link in the comments. You can click on the link and you can come on live, share your name or alias and location, and make your question, comment, or criticism. I'll give y'all a second. And I got some things that I need to talk about, but I don't want to talk about. So I fast and pray y'all just get on here. Okay. I can't keep up with the comments. There's quite a few comments. So if you do have a comment and I miss your comment, I do apologize, but I will try to keep. Oh, okay. I guess it's no questions. Nobody. Okay. I guess I'm going to shut down the the link and just go to the phones. All right, I'll share the phone numbers. I shared the link twice. It's in the comments. I don't have any takers, so now I'm going to share the phone number. It's 312-985-7834. You can reach the phones at 312-985-7834. We don't have much time left. So if you want to call in with your question, comment, or criticism to the BroDiallo show, and shout out to everyone. I didn't see your question. Sometimes the thing I'll miss it because I see it. So, and I could try to scroll. I didn't see your question. So I apologize. I'll try to scroll up and see it's gone. I see. Oh, okay. I see. I found it. All right. What you want, James? Diallo, on Friday, were you challenging the notion of revolution happening in the Sahel, or do you need more evidence? Yes, I was challenging the notion that revolution happened in the Sahel region. I very much challenge that because of what I understand revolution to be in Africa. Like I said, there are some positive things happening in the Sahel, and there are some red flags that I see that are happening in the Sahel. First of all, this isn't the first time we've had anti-Western leaders emerge in Africa and the African diaspora. In Uganda, we had Idi Amin, who came to power. And Idi Amin threw the white man out of the country. He subjected white men to the very, where is it? Let me see if I can show. He made white men carry him around. He really humiliated the colonizers and made the white men bow down before him. Like, here's an image. Let me see if I can share my screen. So Idi Amin had these white men bowing down and before him when he took power. And where's the one? He made the white men carry him around because the colonizers didn't want to walk around in hot Africa. So he had the white men carry him on his shoulders. Here's another famous image. Oops, sorry. I don't know how I did that. Here's another famous image of the white men bowed down. And they really, the West hated Idi Amin. They hated him. He embraced traditional African culture. He claimed to be a man of the people. He threw out all of the colored and the whites and what was the ultimate outcome of that? What was the ultimate outcome? Now the very forces that Idi Amin had driven out of Africa came back in greater force. They even control a larger component of the African economy than they did before Idi Amin. And what did Idi Amin do? He took hundreds of millions of dollars from the country and went to live out his days in luxury and wealth in Saudi Arabia. But Idi Amin was anti-white AF. Same thing with Congo. With Mobutu Sese Seko, he changed the name of the country. This is Zaire, and he was African, and he would wear the shawl. He used to walk around like the Coming to America. He was the most anti-white thing in Africa, but doing backdoor deals while talking about African nationalism and liberation on the front end. He was doing backdoor deals. Same thing with Robert Mugabe. Same thing with Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. He had all this anti-white militant rhetoric, but he still let the Roman Catholics run the educational system and abuse our children, and among other things. Paul Kagame in Rwanda right now been talking greasy and calling out the white man for his crimes. Jomo Kenyatta, same thing. Even Nelly Mandela went to prison, a revolutionary, and had all this rhetoric and came out, and we know what he did. So we've had military in Haiti. Papa Doc Duvalier hated white people, and look at the atrocities he committed. So what does revolution in Africa look like, regardless of who carries it out? I have an issue with coup d'etats. I have an issue with the military. I don't see in history where the military was a revolutionary force. Most of the times when the revolution supports revolution and liberation, they tend to stand down and lay down their arms. The revolution says, well, the government is repressing the people and the people rise up. The military will say, we will stand down their arms. So the military generally commits class suicide. The military taking power historically, statistically, does not bode well for the African masses or any other people who are under military dictatorship. I haven't seen a positive military dictatorship. Now, these military dictators, Niger and other places, are saying we're going to return to civilian rule. They are all promising to say, hey, we're going to return to civilian rule. But let me tell you, these are the characteristics of revolution that I need to see. Some of them are happening in the Sahel. Some of them have yet to happen. But these things in conjunction have to happen. You need socialism. Socialism. You cannot have capitalist revolution in Africa or anywhere, really. But you need land redistribution. You need debt jubilee. You need the worker controlled or what they called a dictatorship of the proletariat. The workers and working classes, the masses of the people must take control and be the primary recipients and benefactor of the economic work, the natural resources and the labor. The rewards of the natural resources and the labor must justly and equitably be distributed amongst the masses. The land stewardship must be equitable. If you don't have socialism, you do not have revolution in Africa. Another thing you need is civilian and secular governments. Military dictatorship, military control, military government, religious theocratic government is not revolution. Governance in Africa, no, you don't understand. Oh, fuck out of here. I'm telling you what revolution is. And you give me an example when these components were not present and you had revolution. Civilian secular governance with an emphasis on restoring the human rights of African citizens. And too many times when these top-down takeovers occur, they turn to the African masses and say, well, you have to understand this takes time. And everybody got to wait. But the elites never wait. The people in power never wait. But the masses who are suffering and starving, they always have to wait, just around the corner. So civilian secular governance, ecological and sustainable development, restoration of ecosystems, and making sure the economic and development, the economic goals and aspiration are aligned with and resonate with sustaining and maintenance of the ecosystem. Anti-imperialism, which is there very strong in the Sahel. Nobody can deny their anti-imperialist stance. But ain't no such thing as halfway anti-imperialism. You can't shut the door to Western imperialism and open up the door to Chinese and Russian imperialism. I don't care who or what. Where they do that at? Continental coordination and continental defense. African revolution must dissolve colonial borders and colonial territorial restrictions. Continental defense apparatus and continental coordination. Open trade and free travel throughout Africa for Africans at home and abroad. Full integration of the African nations and full integration of the global African diaspora Those are just some components. We have some of those things. I know as I'm running down this list, I'm not saying they haven't done on any of it, but those are just the base levels to have African revolution. And so, yes, I am skeptical. As I said on the show Friday, if you weren't watching the Earn Your Liberation show, go watch it. As I said, I am cautiously optimistic, but I'm not ignoring the red flags. That's all I'm saying. So that's that. I appreciate the question. And I believe that it's great to celebrate victories, but I'm not for cheerleading. You know, we can see what's happening right now. There's some good things happening, some exciting things happening, some interesting things happening, but there are some red flags. And you can ignore them if you want to. If you just want to focus on the positive, like a goddamn Disney movie, you can do that. Just, put on a happy face. That you can do that. And I hope every one of my reservations is disproven. I hope I'm absolutely wrong. I hope y'all can come on here next year and be like, BroDiallo, ha, you were wrong. And I'd be like, damn, I was wrong as hell. I'll be the first to admit it. But I know what I know. All right. So where are we now? Oh, the comment sections is going on. It's almost time to wrap it up. Any more questions, comments, or criticisms? There probably have been many, but the comment section, probably the hardest way to get your question recognized is in the comment section, because it kind of goes kind of fast, and I don't want y'all to be so. The best, I gave the phone number, I gave the link. Oh yeah, let me go to the Namdi. Oh, thank you to everyone making contributions. Okay, here we go. Counterinsurgency and internet, or should I say social media. How does that corrupt or make pushing the right propaganda harder? Or should I say, how does it work against the liberation movement? Well, counterinsurgency, you need an insurgency first. But the tactics, what I always say is, when white people lose the war, they work on winning the peace. Just like, what's going on now in Afghanistan. We like to think of peace is the absence of open warfare and open conflict. So just because the United States is not sending drones or has not mobilized AFRICOM to attack the African nations who are seeking to expel the colonial forces from within their territory, doesn't mean that the United States is not aggressively and relentlessly, the biggest budget in the U.S. government, the biggest line item budget in the U.S. military is the Pentagon. But number two after that is not Social Security or welfare. Number two is the black budget, or the line items that they have allocated the money, but they, due to national security reasons, cannot tell you specifically where that money goes. The CIA has its own military, has its own Air Force. The United States Air Force and Navy have the biggest air fleet. After that, the biggest air fleet in the U.S. government is owned by the CIA. So, when you say right propaganda, do you mean right-wing propaganda or correct, appropriate propaganda? It's kind of hard to understand the question, but I will say this. I don't really think the internet, the reason why the internet favors counterinsurgency and reactionary, because it's corporate controlled and the algorithm is governed by the corporations. So even though you have people like me on the internet, it's very hard for me to get I'm lucky if I get a couple of thousand views, and you have some other phone 19 keys can sell out the Apollo and get millions of views spewing utter, absolute, easily disprovable financial pipe dreams and utter nonsense. You know, he even wears he's all but said, I'm starting a new cult. Everybody sign up. So the algorithm does, so it is harder for the left or the revolutionary left to get our message out. But we've pretty much will be at a disadvantage, but we do have at our advantage that we do have reason and the trajectory of history on our side. But it ain't a lot. But yes, it's harder pushing education and correct analysis, and just people, there isn't a great desire for it. We have to pretty much educate our people and inspire our people. A lot of times we on the side of the revolution, as Kwame, one person that was very successful in that in the pre-social media age was Khalid Muhammad. He says, my presentation is one part education and another part inspiration. You have to inspire people as well as educate them. I can't just tell you the facts of the world without awakening something or encouraging you and demonstrating to you that it is viable, that our ideas and our agendas are viable. So yes, social media, if you do an overall assessment, because even though it is financed by the masses, it is controlled by the economic elite. So yeah, you're right. It is a unbalanced ideological battleground, but I think we pretty much use it, and we have to refine our skills, increase our media literacy, and just do the fight. They don't call it the struggle for nothing. It is the struggle. Not a struggle, the struggle. Oh, okay. So yeah, I was having trouble kind of answering that because I didn't really understand. Right, counterintelligence and right wing. Okay. Okay. How is Saudi Arabia and some of the Middle East rich and some African countries aren't? Oh, how is Saudi Arabia rich and some of the Middle East countries and African countries aren't with less resources? Well, the wealth of Saudi Arabia is basically they sold out. Saudi Arabia used to be called Arabia, and throughout the Middle East there were revolutionary uprisings. First of all, the Arabian, the Middle Eastern oligarchs, Saudi Arabia and certain regions are very poor, actually. The people and the masses of the people are very poor. But in the few oil-rich nations, what makes them rich is their not just their oils, but their coordination and cooperation with the Western imperialist powers. And they fully coordinate, and they are needed and necessary in order to maintain hegemony. That is what is called in the colonial times, they were called a protectorate, because the Middle East was a launch pad for larger imperialist aggression and imperialist control. And it went from being what is called a protectorate to being what is called a bulwark. So the the Saudi royal family well positioned themselves to be a wedge between the communist and the Soviet Union of the East and the revolutionary forces coming out of the Islamic world. So they're basically paid to repress that whole region, to facilitate the extraction. So they're paid muscle men to stop the revolutionary uprising. And there are oligarchs there. It's pretty much the same situation in Africa. Africa has many billionaires. Nigeria is one of the most oil-rich regions in the world, and there are a lot of Africans making billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. But the Saudi Arabians have something that the African dictators don't, is that they don't just have oil revenues and CIA support and revenues. They also sit at the theological throne of Islam. So they also have all this power, influence, and revenue coming in because Mecca and Medina and their undue influence over the Islamic faith. But in reality, the people of the Middle East are impoverished and ravaged. If you go to most places, they are uneducated and impoverished and ravaged. And the wealthy Arab driving luxury cars through the desert. That's more of an illusion. I mean, the Middle East has poverty and malnutrition. Syria, Yemen, the masses of the people in Jordan, and another thing that's making the Middle East rich, the oil oligarchs rich, is the same thing that made the West rich: slavery. Slavery is in full effect. So when you see prominent black people going to Dubai and other places, they are there enjoying the fruits of slave labor. Not just sex traffic, but enslaved labor. So they don't pay for a rich, but the Saudi oil family keeps most of their people poor and struggling. So it's not really a rich region or rich people. They have some it's an oligopoly. It's an oligarchical state. And if you're not in with the Saudi royal family and you're not in with the theocratic leadership, you're more likely than not poor as hell, even in the Middle East. So that's how. They took the ransom. Okay, I'm past time. Again, we played The Coup by The Coup, 1993 classic album. If you ain't got it, get it. We're going to go out with Dead Prez and Talib Kweli, Sharpshooter. Since we're talking about militancy, I figured I'd play two militant songs that are genuinely militant, that mix the gun, that mix the violence with the proper ideological orientation, with the proper revolutionary aspirations. It ain't just guns to protect what little you've gained in the struggle. So anyway, thank you for tuning in to the BroDiallo Show. Thank you. Much love and respect and appreciation to all my supporters. There are many ways you can support and sustain the BroDiallo broadcast. Patreon supporters, shout out and appreciation to my Patreon supporters, CashApp and BroDiallo. Also join and embrace the African World Coalition, AWC, coming soon. Peace. Oh, where's the thing? Oh, I got to cue up the music before I say peace. I said peace prematurely. Okay, now I can say it. Peace, y'all, because the music is queued up.